Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm privileged to welcome an accomplished author, the force behind Mark Funkhauser for when he was elected mayor of Kansas City, Gloria Squitiro, talking to us from Hawaii, USA. Gloria, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for welcoming me and for having me on your show. And I'm excited to begin.
Thank you. Gloria is the author of a book titled Come On, Funk, Move Your Ass, How a Demure Little Wife Made Her Husband a Big City Mayor. So, Gloria, before we talk about your book, tell me a little bit about your own journey.
Which part?
Your professional part, where you grew up.
Okay. So I grew up on Long Island in New York, which is just a series of little towns.
Yeah.
It's not the big city that everybody is familiar with New York. I am second generation Italian, and enough that I have dual citizenship. Grew up in a really weird house. The first set of kids, my sister was 12 years older than me, and then there was a 7-year gap, and I came along and my younger brother. By that time, I think my parents were like done raising kids, so we kind of raised ourselves. I am a homebody, and yet I have moved all over the United States. And now, thank God, at 65 years old, I don't think I could stay in one place anymore. I love, like I'm in Hawaii right now. I can look out at the ocean and the cliff, and you can't get that in Long Island.
Amazing. So let's talk about your book, Come On, Funk, Move Your Ass, How a Demure Little Wife Made Her Husband a Big City Mayor. And before I ask you a question, I'm going to ask all our viewers and listeners to go and check out your book. I will go and check it out myself as well. And
thank you.
So my first question to you is, what inspired you to write the Come On Funk memoir series?
I actually never intended to be a writer. I had terrible anxiety starting when I was 19 years old. A childhood girlfriend that I grew up with across the street, like a sister to me, died in a car wreck at 19. And it kind of shook my world. That was a young age to lose somebody like that. And so my life was getting smaller and smaller, even after I overcame the anxiety. So it took 4 years, 6 different therapists to find one that knew how to help me.
Wow.
And the cure is that I had to tell Funk 24 years of pent up rage or 19 years of pent up unexpressed emotion. And he listened. But even after I was over the major part of the anxiety, to control it, to feel safe, and because I am a homebody, my life was shrinking, and to the point that I had stopped flying. I didn't travel. I had wanted to go to Europe so badly. And I decided that I needed to just be afraid. And so we took a boat. I wasn't that brave. We took a boat to Europe, and on that boat, it was 5 days, and so there was nothing else to do. So I decided to write a travel journal, just so when I die, my kids can remember this big adventure. And those entries eventually became quotes, and those quotes eventually became both of these books.
Amazing. And what was the most challenging part of writing your book? And how was the writing process?
The writing process is very interesting for me. My biggest challenge with writing is that I don't have enough time to write. I could wake up in the morning and I'll typically write until about 2 in the afternoon when my brain isn't working anymore. go out for a walk. I walk 4 miles every day, and then come back, do what I need to do household wise, and then edit what I had written that morning. So my problem is finding enough time to be able to write. What was the second part of the question?
No, the second one was that what was the most challenging part of writing your book?
That was the most challenging, finding the time.
Okay. And what is the message you would want viewers to take away from your book?
I would hope that they, by reading somebody else's, well, it depends on which book. The first one is about overcoming anxiety.
Right.
And, kind of with that, you have to remember that fear isn't going to kill you. It looks like it's going to kill you. It feels like it's going to kill you. But in the end, it's just frightening emotion.
Right.
So I would like people to know that. And so with the first book, that's the main message. The second part is that the way I got up the courage to reach for brave is by doing a ritual, self-made ritual in my backyard, basically asking spirit to help me be brave and take this trip.
Amazing. So, Gloria, I'm now going to move to a few questions about your life in Kansas City. How did you balance your personal life with your husband's political career?
Not very well. There is no way to have balance with either running a campaign or being a spouse of somebody in that high office. It was, when you say around the clock, that's no lie. It was around the clock, and it took that. If you want to do a good job, so with running the campaign, there was no way to not. I mean, we were basically working at least 18-hour days on the campaign. And honestly, with being mayor, we probably put in that much time as mayor, but that's because Funk really was trying to make a change, make an effect. He wasn't in it for holding the title.
Well said. And how did you handle negative feedback and criticism during your husband's time in office?
I had to stop reading the newspaper, reading blogs. If somebody wanted to tell me the latest scandal about me, I refused it. I wouldn't have been able to function had I stayed listening to what was written about me in the media. I had one feminist journalist that had come to my house, sitting in my kitchen around my table, interviewing me for a newspaper. And because she was a feminist, she was appalled that there had been over 500 what she called hit pieces done about me in probably, it was like 3 years into Funk's term by then. And it went nationwide, and it even went to the UK. Those stories, it was bizarre, but I had to stop reading anything or else I wouldn't have been able to perform.
Wow. And you just were kind enough to tell me about your own early stresses. How did you deal with the stress and pressure of being a political spouse?
Well, that really, reaching for brave, sucking it up when I was so afraid to go to Europe, leave home. I think we left and we were gone for 9 weeks. And I did better than I thought I would. My ritual across the ocean was that when I stepped off the ship in England, I would be a new and better me. And I just kept that mantra in my head. I got sidetracked. What was the question?
No, the question was that How did you deal with the stress and pressure of
Oh,
being a political spouse?
yeah. So if I hadn't have taken that trip, I don't think I could have had the
Hmm.
strength
Hmm.
to have handled what was to come. So
Amazing.
it was from having pushed my own limits that
Hmm.
I was able to handle it.
Well said. Well said. And Gloria, what would you say was your proudest moment during Funk's time as the mayor?
Well, my proudest moment was that Funk actually, for the first time in our 40 years of marriage,
Hmm.
learned how to multitask.
Okay.
Um, he had never been able to do two things at once. But honestly, the proudest moment was the whole thing.
Hmm.
Funk was given the opportunity to do a whole lot of good for a whole lot of people.
Right.
And I don't think too many people get that opportunity.
Hmm.
And as horrible as it was, and as destructive as it was to my family, I would still do it again because
Hmm.
I think you have to make a difference, you
Hmm.
have to be willing to go through the struggle.
Hmm. What a great response. Thank you. My next question, Gloria, is that what was the most difficult decision you had to make during Funk's time in office?
There were two. One is that I always had my own business.
Mm-hmm.
But my main focus was raising my kids. So
Mm.
being home for them. And, when Funk got home from work, then I'd do my business, run my
Mm.
business.
Mm.
So the most difficult decision was not being home for my son in his
Mm.
last year of high school. That was a big, big, difficult decision.
Mm.
But then the second, regarding the campaign, is Funk wanted me to be his campaign manager. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I'm not, I don't even like politics. I know nothing about running a political campaign.
Mm.
And you want me to read this book and run your campaign?
Mm-hmm.
And, we had two campaign managers.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, he basically designated me to be his campaign manager.
Wow.
And
Mm.
so agreeing to that role was the most difficult decision. I didn't think I had what it took to run a campaign.
Well, and you, as they said, the rest is history. So, we know all the great results that Funk got from his time in office. But my next question to you, Gloria, is how did you stay true to yourself and your values while navigating the political world?
I actually believe in pushing the envelope morally, legally, to the outer edges that you could possibly push it and still be on the side of a good person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that, but also Funk is the complete opposite of me. To
Mm-hmm.
call him a Mr. By the Book, a do-gooder, is it doesn't even explain him.
Right.
And I believe that when you are doing something for somebody else, you need to do it their way.
Mm-hmm.
So doing it his way meant that we had a lot of fights
Mm-hmm.
about, you want to be elected, you want to be mayor, you got to do it this way, because you're not going to do it this way wearing the white hat like this.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were a lot of fights about nothing in particular, like we didn't have, it was a grassroots campaign, so we didn't have any financial backing, which was good
Mm-hmm.
because then he didn't owe anybody anything when he
Right.
took office.
Mm-hmm.
But so that meant we had to be very creative in getting him discovered.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one volunteer, Joe, that came up with the most fantastic ideas for press events.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really out of my husband's comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of them, I had to kind of help him see the value in it.
Mm-hmm. Well said. And what would you say was the most surprising thing you learned during your time in politics?
The most shocking thing, had I not experienced it for myself,
Mm.
is that it's true that the media can create scandals where none exist.
Mm.
That was very amazing to me. I remember once Funk wanted to go to check out this park to see if it was a dog, see if he could turn it into a dog park, because that was wanted by the constituents.
Right.
And so, of course, he's walking up and down ravines and all over the place. I'm tired. It's the end of the day. I hung back at the car, and in the parking lot, I listened to three women talking about how I've become so uppity that, Brookside, where we were living in the urban core, wasn't good enough for me anymore. How I sold my house, moved up to the Northland, which is where the very wealthy Republicans live, all white, and that I tore everything out. It was a brand new house, but I tore everything out. And I'm listening to them, and I honestly could not believe that they were talking about me. Like, and they were certain of that this is what happened, and none of that happened. So the second shocking thing is that for 18 years, Funk was revered as a high up government employee by the newspaper, by the people of Kansas City. And really within 3 months, the newspaper was able to turn opinions. I don't know how. I could never have my opinion swayed that quickly after 18 years. My radar would be up like, how can this be?
Amazing.
So I was surprised that people believed it.
Amazing. And what role did your family play? I mean, I know you played a significant role, but other members of your family in Funk's political career?
They wanted absolutely nothing to do with it. We have 2 natural born kids, 2 children we took in when they were 8 and 11, and 10 exchange students. So the 4 that lived with us, for the most part, were what you would call bleeding heart liberals. So, and yet here's their father trying to change the world for the better in a bleeding heart liberal way, and they wanted no part of it. And it was mostly because they didn't want to see themselves in the media, like I was.
Amazing. Well said. I have time for 2 more questions for you. My next question is, how did you handle the transition back to private life after Funk left political office?
I was actually really sad that he didn't get a second term to finish what he started, because he had made, at the time, Kansas City it was the 30th largest city in America, and yet they had the 3rd largest violence rate. And he was able to reduce the crime rate by 33% in his 4 short years. And I would have loved if he had a chance to do more than that. He did a lot. He saved the budget and whatnot. But the rest of it, because of the politics, we were very in debt from those 4 years, because he was supposed to have another job. Every mayor in Kansas City has a second job. I don't know how, because it is around the clock. But because of the politics, he didn't get those jobs. So we were basically going on credit cards and whatnot. And so to handle the transition, first of all, he got blacklisted from Kansas City. He could not get a job even after being mayor, because they wanted to make sure that he wouldn't be ever elected again. And so just by a gift from God, I started a business, and within like 4 years got us completely out of debt. We were about $500,000 in debt.
Wow.
So that's how I handled the transition. I had to make sure that we survived financially. So
amazing.
That was the end of the sadness.
Yeah, amazing. And more power to you. And I'm sure life is going to be very, very good now. But my last question to you, Gloria, and this is for so many people who will listen to our conversation. What would you say were 3 lessons you would like our viewers to take away from your experience with the political world?
Well, we were told, because Funk was never in politics, that it was pie in the sky thinking that he could get elected. And I would say to people that you cannot, if you're going after a major dream, you cannot think about the logistics. If you try to think about the logistics, you will never make the first step.
Yeah.
So 3 lessons. 1, don't let logistics get in your way of your dream. Basically, you got to believe in yourself. Trust your gut. Your gut is going to tell you exactly everything you need to know to do anything in life. And, you know, I think if you don't believe in yourself, you kind of have to pretend you do and keep moving toward the goal. And eventually you'll get there.
Wonderful. And on that note, and your 3 wonderful lessons, don't let logistics get in the way of your dream. Second, you said was trust your gut. And the third one was keep moving. You will ultimately get there. Thank you, Gloria, for speaking to me about your own journey. Thank you for speaking to me about so many different aspects about a political career that Funk has had. And clearly, he was very successful, and clearly there were challenges towards the end, not because of his making, but because others didn't want him. Thank you also for being so forthright about your book and some of your deep thoughts about it. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.